Hey, my beautiful family and friends, my reflections. How are we? Doing good. I was just sitting here very calmly, realizing how trippy imagination is. And it led me down a rabbit hole of just ideas and thoughts. And I was thinking about The Sims. Have you heard of that? It's like a simulation game. Um, you use your controller. I don't know if it's for PlayStation or what, game console. I've never played it, but the concept of it, I do know about it. And so you create a character, you give them a whole life, you give them a neighborhood to live in, a house, a job, relationships, kids, like dog, the whole thing that you want that character to have. And then you're the player, you get to decide if you want to control that character or put it on automatic mode where the character is something that you observe and AI takes over it and it just does what it wants to do, right? It uses its free will to live its life, and in that way you become the watcher. This was really interesting to me in deep ways because it showed something that I was aware of as a very small little girl. One of the first memories that I remember having was looking at the floor unit TV that we used to have in our living room and looking at all the people on the TV screen. And I just thought one day, what if the people in the TV knew that I was watching them? Like, I was like, they don't even know that they're being watched and they're living their lives and they're doing, they're playing their roles. And that profound thought led to me going outside that day and being like, I'm being watched. There's something far away behind some invisible screen that can see me. Going along with that idea, I was like, I'm going to pretend and act and play a character and entertain these invisible watchers, right? And so I went through basically my whole childhood playing imagination or pretend games, and it was really fun just being in those imaginary worlds and entertaining the watchers. And without really intentionally doing it, I had made connection with my spirit team because through my imagination, I became aware that something is watching me, and then the presence of spirit would be around me, and sometimes it would be a little bit creepy. And spirit teams can talk or communicate with you through dreams. That activated, and my dreams became really, really just vivid and lucid, and it felt like it was real, or like I was being visited in my dreams. And so this on top of the movies at that time in the 80s when I was little, E.T. had come out, and that used to freak me the heck out, man. E.T. used to scare me. I used to also not like the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy. We were being fed all these stories, and the parents would play along, especially with Santa Claus and with Christmas, right? And I would have these reoccurring nightmares about the Easter Bunny or these big-headed aliens, and I would be freaked out. And I would always run upstairs to my parents' room and try to sleep with them in their bed, and they would be like, letting me. But then eventually I did it too many times, and they were like, nope, go back to your bed, go downstairs. And it was scary for me to just sleep alone in the dark, on a separate floor from my parents. And so a lot of times I would just still go up to their room and sneak in there while they were asleep, and I would just sleep on the floor because I would just feel a little more safe that way, because there was a presence of spirit that when I was first confronting with it, it was spooky, and the 80s were just spooky years anyway. And it was also a time when imagination was really being pushed at the schools, on the Disney Channel even, which I was an avid watcher of that. We used to have cable when I was growing up, and it was, do you believe in magic? And That might have even been McDonald's, but I just remember being prompted to use my imagination. And so a lot of times I would start envisioning certain things, and to my surprise, it would come true, or it would come to life, right? For instance, there was this time when Christmas was coming up, and my dad said, what are you going to get for Christmas? What is Santa going to bring you this year? And I sat and envisioned for just a brief moment, and I could see myself riding a red bike. And so I said to him, I'm going to get a red bike. And his mouth dropped, and he's like, how did you know? Were you in the closet? And I was like, no, I didn't know what he was talking about. I just imagined it, and it was true. And so turns out I really got a red bike that year. And just Christmas alone would be such a magical time, where I realize now how much that was like a ritual or magic that I was performing as a little child, because it was about, putting your wish list together, the toys that I wanted, writing Santa a letter, and Santa being a ultra terrestrial, it definitely has supernatural qualities, the whole Santa entity. And so anyway, I'm writing Santa a wish list. I'm preparing a shrine on the table when I'm giving Santa an offering of cookies and milk, and there's soft lighting, flickering lights on the tree like candles, and that whole ritual. And then waking up the next morning and it being like, ta-da, look at all your gifts that have arrived like magic. And of course, it wasn't literal magic, but my parents really worked hard to create the illusion of magic that really gave me the illusion of magical powers as a child. And so I think that it only worked to strengthen and enhance my imagination and my imagined powers over time. It's interesting because then later I was drawn to occult knowledge, which includes learning about some of the earth magic that can be performed to bring about certain outcomes. And so I became a real life magician, and I would connect with my ancestors through building them a shrine, and I would do moon circles every new moon and every full moon. I would be writing my wish list of things that I want to manifest or release, and it would be like equivalent to the writing a letter to Santa. And there would be candles lit, there would be offerings that were left for the ancestors, and I would imagine that they really got those offerings. And I would, even if it was candy, I would open it up for them and just imagine like this would help them get to that offering a little easier. I would offer them a glass of water to quench their thirst, and the level of the water would, go down over a couple of days, and I would imagine that they were actually sipping the water. Never mind the laws of, evaporation. It was, nope, they received that water from me, or those flowers that I left for them. And so later, when I was learning about spiritual baths and how to create that bath that gets poured over my head during certain times when I'm trying to, clean away bad energy. That first time, I remember sitting and meditating for just a little while and envisioning how I was going to conduct my spiritual bath. And visions started to come to me. I could see myself pouring water into a bowl and getting some milk and pouring that in there, and the herbs that would go in. And I saw myself stirring the water with my hand in a clockwise manner. And after I saw the whole process from beginning to end, all the way through me dumping it over my head and how I was going to do that part, where that would happen, etc., etc. I learned later that I did the ceremony properly, or just right, even down to the stirring and which direction to stir. And it was because I paid attention to the details of my own vision and just followed what I saw. It was just interesting that my intuition was correct, or that my spirit team was able to guide me through my own imagination in a way that was in alignment. I started to really trust the guidance of my own visions and how I work with my spirit team. And it became like second nature at this point. When it was the 1010 portal on October 10th, I did a release ceremony because 1010, that's an angel number that represents 10 represents endings, and then you have the 1 after that, which represents new beginnings. And so the 1010 portal represented endings and beginnings all at once. And I had been seeing that number 1010 on the clock twice a day for weeks, if not months. And those are what I like to call angel numbers. All the way leading up to 1010, I kept seeing that number. And so I did the release part of the ceremony, and then when it was time for me to dress the ancestor shrine, and I put the water, the candles, the flowers, the incense, that sort of thing out, and I needed to leave an offering, similar to how you leave an offering of cookies and milk for Santa, right? But I was looking around and I didn't have anything. It was time for me to get more groceries, and I was just kind of like, what am I going to leave for the offering? And we had some takeout, some Chinese takeout, a couple days before then. And so I found a fortune cookie that was unopened, and I was like, boom, I'm just going to put this on the shrine. And I did it without even thinking twice. But then I went to bed after I concluded everything for that ceremony. And the next day, the angel number that I kept seeing was 1011. So it had moved from being 1010 to 1011. And I keep seeing 1011 ever since then. It's 5 days later at the time of this video. So I finally decided to go ahead and look it up. What does 1011 mean? Because you can just look it up on Google. You can search the number that you're seeing and then say angel number meaning. Angel number 1011 is a sure sign that a cycle is over in your life. You are now entering a positive new cycle. Good luck starts to show up, for all of your hard work is paying off. This is a good time to take on any new projects. Good fortune and positive energy surrounds you at this time. So immediately I thought of the fortune cookie, and I'm like, I called in good fortune by putting that fortune cookie up there, right? And I just thought about my spirit team, and I could imagine them jumping around and being excited, like, oh shit, she found the fortune cookie. Oh, she did it. Yay. She's calling it in. Like, now we get it. We're gonna make sure that you get this. Good luck, these new beginnings. Like, we get it. What it is that you're saying to us, right? And so back to the Sims game that I was talking about in the beginning. Imagine that you're playing The Sims, right? And you've created a character, and they're doing a ritual, and they put something up that is a direct communication to you, the player, and you're looking like, does this character know that I'm watching it? Like, is it trying to communicate with me through this game? Like, and then what if the action of the character proved that it was aware of itself and had its own consciousness? That's how I imagine things being when I can be in the position of the character that was created, whether my higher self created this character or, the creator of all things, right? And so the spirit team is kind of a team observing the game that's being played, where I'm in the game. And then there are times when I'm on autonomy mode and I do everything that I want to do. And then there's other times when it feels like I'm being ordered to do things, or given tasks and orders from a higher place. And that seems to be when I get those intuitive nudges. And I think that those come from my spirit team. And what gives the characters the ability to move automatically is AI, or artificial intelligence. And so AI is the game as well. AI is part of the game. So are the characters, so are all of the pixels and, pieces of the technology that make the game work. And that's what I believe is happening in reality. First of all, someone's imagination had to come up with the idea of Sims being a game in order to invent it. And they probably envisioned it very much like life itself, or because it's a life simulation game, right? And so just how artificial intelligence is what makes the characters animated in The Sims, imagination is what makes people and reality exist as we know it. It is the primordial force, the intelligence of the creator itself, put into matter and into living things. Imagination has been so downplayed as a childish act, or a thing that you outgrow. I just feel bad when I see people that don't really use their imagination, or they aren't very imaginative and they're not able to think outside of the box, or they really haven't let their imagination live on since childhood very much. And in that way, it's kind of like their inner child died and they became an adult, and they were just adulting, and they were just so serious that they left all the childish things behind, right? But they need to get back in touch with their inner child and let their imagination run wild and start to dream big, because imagination's role is to shape our realities. I have had experiences where plant medicine played a role in helping me realize that, because in those states of consciousness, depending on the plant that is ingested, the imagination is what governs the experience that you have on your trip. And so that's why people all have personal experiences, and no two trips are the same, because it relies on that person's imagination to happen. Sometimes your imagination can run away from you, or just run a little too wild, and those trips can get scary and turn into a nightmare. And the only way that that's possible is if your imagination is so vivid that the experience feels real. I realize that imagination is real. They try to make you think that it's not real, or it's not important, like it's just a figment of your imagination, as they say, or like it's fiction. But no, your imagination is true. This is how it works. There's 4 different parts to it. Imagination works through imagery, and those are the things that you're able to envision, whether your eyes are closed or not, or whether it's in a dream. You're able to see it through imagining it. The second component is intuition. So when you're making choices in life, we use imagination to decide before we make that choice if we want to choose A or B. Let's say A is, do I want a chili dog? And B is, do I want fish and potatoes? Your intuition or your gut feeling is going to tell you if you want either one. You might even use imagery, which was, the first part, and intuition combined, because you might see yourself eating a chili dog, and that is a way that your imagination can help you with a choice. And life is just the outcome of all of the choices that we have made over time. And your imagination was used before making all of those choices. The third way that imagination works is through inspiration. And this one is not like an idea. Think of it as a command that is coming from the upper planes, the spirit team, back to the choice or decision about whether to eat the chili dog or the fish and potatoes. You might get a clear command that is telling you, now you know that your blood pressure is high, so don't eat a chili dog. Eat the fish and potatoes, and that is kind of that visual of the angel and devil on the shoulders, but something is inspiring you to make a choice. And then the last part of imagination actually happens when you're in a trance-like state where it's just happening automatically and it's more fluid. Imagination is something that can flow through you because you're a vessel for imagination to flow through. I do that all the time when I'm automatic drawing. Some people do automatic writing. Some people do automatic speaking or channeling. And it is a channel of imagination that can be tuned into. And so those are the 4 different ways that imagination works. And when people are trained out of using their imagination, it's like a firewall. It's like they're blocked from their ancient or indigenous technology that they are hardwired into. The less you use your imagination, the less access you have to your spirit team. And I have listened to them this whole time since I was very small, and so I have retained access to my imagination and spirit team, and I am at oracle status by now. It is my mission to get those back in touch with their dormant imagination, their dormant inner child that wants to come out and play and imagine and dream big. All right, so I hope that you now remember just how important imagination is. It is extremely crucial and powerful for you and your sovereignty and your alignment with all of the powers that are here for you, here to help you and guide you along your journey. And if you want to learn more about how to activate your spirit team's power, I will also put the link to that video in my description. All right, so that is all I have for now. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And until next time, peace. Love you guys.